Okay. Well, everybody, welcome to another session of Wellness Wednesday. My name is Denise Miller, and I'm with the Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick. Very happy to have you join us this evening for a talk on food and mood. I personally am really looking forward to this. So our guest this evening is Lesley Baker. She is a certified holistic nutritional consultant based in Greater Moncton. She's very passionate about educating people about the impact whole food and individualized nutrition can have on health, especially mental wellness. She currently offers consultations through Lesley Baker Nutrition and is a team member of Sequoia Foods in Moncton. She is also an instructor at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition in Moncton and is starting her master's in counseling psychology at Yorkville University in the new year. Lesley, it is an absolute pleasure for us to host you and to welcome you to our Wellness Wednesday, and I'll let you take over.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Denise. I'm happy to be here, and I think it's a wonderful time of the year too when we're starting into new routines and new years to maybe have a look at how we can help support our mood and our mental wellness and overall health with food. It's one of the ways that I'm very passionate about, and I find that can be very impactful, but also easy to do. So we get started here, and of course anyone can enter any little questions into the chat, and I've also included my contact information in case anything comes up in future. I'd be happy to discuss it a little bit. So we are going to talk a little bit about food and your mood and what is the connection of it. My training as a holistic nutritionist really encompasses not only your health, but how the body, the mind, and the soul, and the spirit, and everything works well together. So we will get started here. So we all know that sometimes when we're eating well, we're having some good choices, we're well nourished, how energetic we feel. We feel good, our mind is clear, our mood is good, uplifted. We can get the things we want to done, we can handle stress well, and so on. Maybe those times we're not feeling so well, then that happens that we're a little bit lower in our energy. We aren't sleeping quite as well, but sometimes we aren't thinking as clearly as well. It's more difficult to learn and do the things that we want to. So when we talk about how food actually affects our body and gives us the energy we need to function, it also affects the brain as well as the rest of our body. So our mood and our brain are really affected by the foods that we consume, whether they be the best choices or not the best choices. You can think about how we feel when we're enjoying a beautiful meal with our friends and families that hopefully we got to do safely this season. And maybe we can think about how wonderful we feel too when we get a nice quiet morning alone, savoring our nice hot cup of coffee. It uplifts our mood. We feel relaxed, we feel energetic, and so on. On the other hand, maybe if we're feeling a little bit lower or stressed, sometimes we reach for that favorite comfort food. Or maybe when we're in a rush or we're stressed or we're on the run, maybe we're eating mindlessly, we're not really paying a lot of attention or making some choices that maybe aren't the best for us as well. So food is a really important factor in our mental wellness, and we can use it to help our moods and so on. Let's see. So our food will feed our brains as well as our emotions. We're going to talk a little bit about how that happens. We're going to talk about the quality of our diet, why that is important, a little bit about something called the brain, gut, nervous system, something called the microbiome that you may or may not have heard of before. We're going to discuss all of the macronutrients we know about, the proteins, the carbs, the fats, kind of dispel some myths and find out what's important to take in order to feed our mood and so on. We'll talk a little bit about vitamins and minerals as well and the role that they play and how some of our daily habits can affect our mood as well and how we can best support it. So the first thing I want to touch on today is sort of about the quality of the food and why it matters to our brains. We are in a society right now that our modern diet can be very processed. It can often have preservatives, colorings, additives, A lot of things we don't know and can't pronounce on those labels, and often some lower quality ingredients. Why is this happening? Well, we've really become a society that wants everything quickly. We want things maybe to be inexpensive to produce and prepare. And we also want things to have a longer shelf life. So maybe unlike maybe our grandparents or great-grandparents, food and farming has really changed quite a bit overall in the years. Sometimes our soil is much lower nutritional quality in it. That results in lower nutritional quality in some of our foods. Sometimes we are consuming foods that have traveled a really long distance, California, overseas, things like that. And as things travel, they will also lose some of the nutritional value. We have a lot of refinement in our foods now, some things I'd like to call Franken foods that are more made in a lab instead of a garden. And a lot of the foods can have some incomplete nutrients. And this is all done sometimes to lengthen the shelf life, or it might be a transportation issue. And it can also mean that foods are being produced not by farmers like they used to be, but sometimes in laboratories and factories, and they have much lower nutritional quality. So we're not getting all of the nutrients that maybe we need from our diet. What can this mean for our body? A few things. First thing is inflammation. So inflammation, we're going to feel that in those aches and pains that maybe we're feeling that we've just kind of come to live with. Inflammation might come in terms of skin problems or eczema and psoriasis, things like that. We may find that we're not thinking as clearly. We have trouble learning. We have headaches. We have trouble with sleep. All of those things can be signs and symptoms of maybe we've got too much inflammation in our body, including our brain. We're going to talk a little bit about something called oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is something that happens in our body. Our body has hundreds of different chemical reactions happening all the time, and it will produce oxidative stress just as it's doing its normal functions. But in a body that's really nutrient rich and ABA has everything it needs, it can help repair as it does all of the things that the body needs to do. Oxidative stress is when the body starts to break down a little bit, and I like to call it, it's a little bit rusty. It doesn't work so well. The other thing we're going to talk about is unbalanced gut health. Our gut intestinal system really plays a larger part. We're finding out more and more with science now how much part it really does play in our health, including our moods. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight as well. So mood problems, sometimes the quality of our food is going to affect our moods, our energy levels, our ability to learn, our focus, our attention. And ultimately, over a long term, we can end up with some chronic diseases. Chronic diseases, unfortunately, in our society are increasing and really play a large part of the problems that we have in our healthcare system today. So the first one I want to talk about tonight is inflammation and oxidative stress. So inflammation is something that we do need the body to do. So if you get a cut or if you broke a bone or something, the body's way to repair itself is to first beat inflammation. It helps stabilize our body so all of our immune system can help repair. The problem is that we have inflammation that sticks around, and a lot of us are inflamed all the time. So we may have aches and pains, we may have skin problems, but inflammation when it comes to our mood and our brain is reflected in poor concentration, poor sleep, difficulty remembering, affecting our mood. Maybe we have more anxiety, we have more depression. Things like that can all be signs of inflammation. Oxidative stress. Oxidative stress happens on a regular basis, as I said, but we're getting more and more of it because we have some refined and processed foods that generally have a lot of calories, it has poor ingredients, it has poor quality fats, and lots of refined sugar. And our body has a hard time handling those types of things. So our body also gets a little bit less of the vitamins and minerals it needs when we eat a lot of processed foods and poor quality fats and proteins and carbs. That can also lead to inflammation and stress and affect our mood. So when the body and the brain have these lower quality building blocks, when it needs to repair itself and provide us with energy and do all its housekeeping duties, and also makes our brain chemicals. We need to have really good quality nutrients for that. When we don't have them, then we get more inflammation. Our cells start to get damaged by oxidative stress, and we find more and more inflammation happen. So over a lifetime, inflammation and stress can lead to lots of chronic conditions, heart disease, diabetes, and even cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's and so on. We're actually starting to call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. That's one of the new terms that's coming out because of the effect that uncontrolled sugar and refined sugars on a lifetime of a diet can have effects on our brain. So when we talk about today, how are we all feeling? I think that a lot of us can probably agree that we are probably feeling pretty stressed sometimes. We're wired, we're tired, we're frazzled. Are we feeling calm? Are we chill? Are we able to pace ourselves? Do we feel joy, excitement, or in control of what's happening in our life? Are we feeling sad or anxious or fearful? Are we able to focus, learn, remember important details that we need to? All of these things can be attributed somewhat to our foods sometimes. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit now about the two different brains that we have. We all know that we have the brain up here that helps us do other things, but we also have another one in the body. And they actually talk to each other and they influence each other, and they have a very big influence on our moods and our health. And we call that our gut beat brain. So you may have heard the term, I have a gut feeling about something. Well, you really do. Our gut actually has millions and millions of nerves in the stomach and the intestines and so on, in one very large nerve that actually travels from our brain down to our gut. It's called the vagus nerve. This one here will actually talk and communicate to our gut about what's happening, and the gut will respond. So it takes a very, very large part in how we feel, how we think, and it works with any hormones and different nervous system messengers to help control our moods. We call this the gut-brain axis or connection, and the vagus nerve is what is responsible for what we call our rest and digest system. So the normal state of what our bodies should be most of the time is in rest and digest. It means that you're going about your day, you're pretty cool, you're pretty chill, you're getting things done, you know, mealtime comes, you're feeling kind of hungry, we can sit, we can eat, we can digest our food, we get on with our day, doing all the things we need to do. But in reality, is our life really in rest and digest mode? You know, sometimes we are stressed. We are stressed a lot of the time. We are rush, rush, rush. We are go, go, go. We're not listening to those signals that maybe our stomach is saying it's time to eat. I need a little bit of nourishment, time to sleep, time to rest, things like that, right? So we are more in the stress response system. So the stress response is really useful. It's useful, especially in prehistoric times. It's what helps keep us safe in an emergency situation. So if we're being chased by the bear, this stress response is what will get us safe, what will get us away. Our heart rate would increase. We would start to get nervous. Our breathing would get heavier. We'd have more adrenaline and cortisol to help our muscles work, and we'd be able to run away from that bear, right? That's what the stress response is supposed to do in our body. When we're away from the bear and we're safe, we calm down and we go back to rest and digest mode. But what happens in today's world, the stress doesn't shut off. So we're constantly in this stressed response. What happens? We end up tired. Our energy is gone. We can't focus, we can't sleep well, we're worried, we might be sad, we might be anxious. And when we're in this stress response system, the body naturally will shunt any energy away from our stomachs. It will shunt it away for our muscles and our heart and our brain to be more alert, so we don't digest our foods well. It just shut that system down. So the communication path between the gut and the brain isn't working really well. So over a long term, what's going to happen is our body is going to age much quicker, and we're probably not going to absorb some of the nutrients that we do need. So when we are wired and tired, what happens is that the blood sugar in our blood becomes unbalanced. When it's unbalanced, we get these ups and downs and cravings. So we tend to overeat, Or maybe we get so tired and stressed we don't eat enough. Your body is going to have a lot of extra sugar running around in its blood. It may save more of it as fat to help try to conserve the energy that we do have. We can get some digestive problems like upset stomach, bloating, gas, all those things because our digestive activity is turned down, and worry and anxious actually does cause some stomach problems too. Our body under stress uses up tons and tons and tons of vitamins and minerals. It's using this to try to fight the stress, to get us away from that virtual bear that is chasing us all the time. So we don't have those vitamins and minerals we need so the body can do its normal repair and to help keep our body functioning well, including the brain. Our immune system also gets really overworked. We end up getting more likely to be sick when we're stressed over a long term too. And finally, when we're in stress response mode, our brain is more concerned about getting us away from this stress. It's not interested in learning new information, schoolwork, that new presentation you have to do at work, any other new information. It's just not keeping it and retaining it the way it is. It's difficult to pay attention, and it's also difficult to regulate those moods as well. So we're going to go back to the vagus again. So there are some small steps that I like to follow in order to manage our stress on a daily basis and to help return our body back to that rest and digest mode, especially when we're getting ready to eat or getting for mealtime. Taking several deep breaths. Several deep breaths will activate that vagus nerve to help calm our body down. It calms our body back down again so we can get into the rest and digest space. Brings our attention back to the present moment, not all of those things that have us stress. If we can spend more time in nature, doing some gentle exercise, relaxing activities into our day, like having a bath or yoga or things like that, sitting down to eat without distractions. So just the act of sitting down to eat is difficult for many people. We're often eating on the run, we're grabbing something in the microwave, and we're doing 10 things at once. Sitting down and eating without distractions can really put the body in rest and digest and signal, okay, my gut's ready for some food now, let's do what we need to do. Taking some device-free time for yourself as well. Watching a funny movie or listening to music, those are all ways that you can incorporate during your day sometimes to bring your body back into rest and digest mode. When we reduce that fight and flight response, we activate the vagus nerve. Then the body is ready to do all of the repair that it needs to keep us healthy. But then our stomach is also ready to absorb all the food that we've eaten and keep those nutrients to make us feel better and help our moods. So when we've got our digestive activity working, the damage that is caused to our cells from the stress will start to repair itself. We start to clear any toxins or debris that has to accumulate in our brain, because our brain, as it does work and it does its everyday workings, it does get toxins and it gets debris that it needs to clear out, just like the rest of the body. And this is also when we start to make new brain connections. We can start to file away anything that we might have experienced. We can learn new things as well. And we also feel that sense of emotional safety and relaxation that we get. So the vagus nerve actually talks to our gut, and it gives it instructions about which nutrients we need for different functions in the body, what we need to absorb from our diet. It also tells the gut a little bit about what type of hormones and building blocks that we need. It will tell the body and the gut a little bit about what toxins to get rid of through our digestive system as well. But it also kind of tells us how we're feeling. So if you think about, that gut feeling, sometimes you have that gut feeling, maybe you're starting something new, and you get a little bit of that anxious butterflies in the stomach. There's very, very little difference between the feeling of anxiety and excitement sometimes. And that's the vagus nerve that's talking to your gut. So sometimes when we're really excited about that, sometimes our gut feels a little bit uneasy and that type of thing. It's that part of that nervous system that is reacting. And in return, we found out more and more that the gut is now talking back to the brain in a few ways as well. It does that by sending nerve impulses back up to the brain to kind of constantly communicate about what it's doing. It makes some hormones that might go out into our bloodstream to affect different parts of our body. but it also makes the neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are those chemicals that are produced that actually control our moods, whether we are happy, whether we are sad, whether we are anxious, whether we're able to focus, and so on. So serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is really one of the main ones. And we know now that 90% of our serotonin is actually made in our gut. So we really need to get those building blocks to make the serotonin in order to really keep our mood up. Serotonin also at nighttime, with the signals that our brain gets when it's starting to get dark, turns into melatonin. Melatonin is the transmitter that helps us with our sleep. So what happens if we don't have enough serotonin in the daytime? We're probably not going to feel super happy. We're going to be pretty low mood. We're probably not going to expend a whole lot of energy. But then when it comes to nighttime, we may not have enough melatonin to then fall asleep well and get a good night's sleep. So it just ends up being a really vicious cycle of being low mood in the day, not sleeping well, and so on. So the right type of nutrients in food can really help this. GABA is another neurotransmitter that is made in the gut. And GABA is the one that keeps us calm, keeps us chill, keeps us kind of relaxed. So we don't get that anxiety that we can often feel. So we actually develop a real communication system in this gut after birth. And we actually this communication system is a huge community of what we call beneficial bacteria. There are actually more bacteria in our digestive system than we actually have cells in our body, which is quite remarkable. So this particular group or community of bacteria that we have in our gut, we call it the microbiome. And this is something it's going to always change in the variety and the combinations throughout our lifetime. Everyone is different in the microbiome that they have. It's almost like a genetic fingerprint of sorts in our body. And some of these bacteria are actually really responsible for making those happy hormones like serotonin, which can help ward off depressive symptoms, anxiety, things like that. So the gut also makes, like I mentioned, GABA, our calming neurotransmitter, and it makes some other substances too that will help influence the body to clear the brain, to learn to do those types of things. So how can we support all of these things? If we have an unhappy gut microbiome, these are some of the things that can affect it. First of all, stress. There are scientific studies out there showing that perceived stress before and after certain events in individuals can actually change the variety and the types of bacteria in your stomach, which is quite interesting. If we have a lack of exercise as well, that can affect the diversity of our microbiome. If we eat a lot of processed and sugary foods and food colorings and preservatives, things like that, that can affect it as well. Antibiotics. So antibiotics, while they're very important when we want to avoid certain diseases and are needed, they do have a full effect of killing all of the bacteria in the body, including the good ones too. So oftentimes, if you've had a long spell of antibiotic use, some people can find that their mood is actually really affected afterwards. And that's because we don't have that diversity and as much good gut bacteria. So it's really important to incorporate in some good fermented probiotic foods in your diet, or take a probiotic if needed after you've used antibiotics to help rebuild that system again. There are some medications out there that will actually reduce the amount of good bacteria in your guts as well. Toxins or different environmental chemicals, if they might have been used to produce your food, or maybe they're introduced through your skin, that can affect it as well. Very important to your brain. Your brain is almost 60% water, really the whole body. But to the gut too is a lack of water. We need good, clean water the best we can. And if we have an excess in alcohol or drug intake too, that can really affect your microbiome. So it's really quite a remarkable system. And I know that since the days that I went to university in the early 90s, this was not spoken about at all in any of my biology classes. And I know now that it's only been in the past few decades that we've really learned how much our gut bacteria is really important to our health. So how can we make a happy gut and a brain? So we want this to be a really happy marriage between the gut and the brain. Some of the things that are very easy for us to do is getting a variety in our diet. So if we can get the best possible fruits and vegetables and fiber sources daily, that's very important. These gut bacteria actually feed on the foods that we don't digest, that get passed through our system and eliminated. So fiber is very important. So things like whole grains, the cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts and broccolis, fruits that have fiber, so pears, apples, things like that, nuts and seeds, fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut and things like that, very, very important to building and feeding that gut bacteria. So if we try to reduce or eliminate some of the more refined foods, so the white foods, the white flours, the white pastas, things that are processed, or something, if it needs to be in a bottle or in a package and have an ingredient list, that's a processed food. Some of the artificial sweeteners and food additives too, those can affect our gut microbiome. If you can make water your drink of choice, that is really the healthiest thing that will help your gut be happy. Alcohol and treats, of course, in moderation. I always like to try to live by the 80-20 rule. 80% of my diet most of the time is pretty good. The other 20% is where I treat myself to those special things I like. Trying to get some daily walks and exercise, finding an exercise that you can enjoy that can really help your gut too, because walking and exercise helps move the things through your gut well. So you're eliminating things well. When we have food that is sitting in our stomach and our intestines too much, not only do we get the bloating and the discomfort and things like that, it can cause things to ferment. And when things ferment, sometimes we get those little bitty bad bacteria that aren't so healthy multiplying. And of course, if we can reduce stress where we can too, that's very, very important to the gut. So we're going to talk a little bit about the types of foods that will help your brain. I call protein the superhero. This is the main thing that I love to recommend and make sure that people are getting enough of when they're looking at trying to improve their nutrition, but also their mood health. Protein is really essential to really important for your mood health. I call it the cast of superheroes for our brains, and most of us don't eat enough protein. Protein, when it's broken down in our body, makes a building block called an amino acid. So we have about 20 different types of amino acids in our diet, and it's needed in order to repair and make new cells, to make our hormones that communicate throughout the body, and to make those messengers for our mood, the neurotransmitters. So if you can try to get about 30 grams of protein at each of your meals and snacks, and some of your snacks throughout the day, what happens, it actually keeps those blood sugars level, so you don't get the ups and downs and sugar spikes and your energy up and down throughout the day. And it also encourages our muscles to actively burn extra energy and fat. It will make the neurotransmitters that keep us happy, calm, motivated, and focused. So, carbs. Unfortunately, carbs get a bad rap some days. When a lot of people talk about, oh, I don't like my carbs, I don't want to have carbs, oftentimes they're talking about the potato chips, or they're talking about the French fries, or the bread baskets, or the pizzas, and all those types of things. That's what people often think of about carbs. But carbohydrates break down in our body to glucose. So glucose is the preferred fuel for our body. But carbohydrates, while they do include all those things like chips and fries and those types of carbs that are more refined, and maybe some of the good nutrition has been taken out of that, carbs are also like the vegetables, the fruits, all the whole grains and the whole breads, things like that. And our body needs those consistently in order to run well. I like to think about our body being similar to a car engine. So if we cheap out and we give our car engine some really low quality gas, as we would the refined carbs or things like that, it doesn't run the best, it clogs up, it might even go into disrepair, right? But if we give our engines or our bodies the premium gas of the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains and things like that, it's going to help us keep our car engine our body engine really clean, but it's going to run efficiently. It's going to be run much more smoother, and our body's going to have the good glucose that it needs to do all of its repair kind of thing. So carbs are good. They're needed. It makes us run efficiently. The trick is to find and to choose on about 80% of the time the good carbs that you can use, right? So don't be afraid of carbs. And the other thing is fats. Fats are really confusing for some people. They're really necessary and they are good. They're super important, and they should make up about 20% or so of your diet on average. Everyone's a little different. A lot of the fats that we do consume, however, are often found in processed foods. So things like canola oil or margarine or anything that has a fat called hydrogenated, or another clue is modified. These are fats that have been artificially modified for the cooking industry. And they are modified in a way that our body can't use them well. And they're modified in a way where sometimes the body will actually cause more oxidative stress and more damage than a good natural fat would be. So our fats actually help keep our cells healthy, our skin nice and glowing. And in particular in the brain, our brain is mostly fat. All of the neurons in our brain need to communicate nerve impulses to communicate with each other, just like you would on a power line. It has to go fast and quick through a power line like an energy. I like to compare fats to the rubber coating that's on a power line that keeps all those power lines running well and insulated. Because fats in the brain actually do form a coating called the myelin sheath over our neurons, and that helps all those brain impulses go faster and more efficiently and quicker. So it protects our brain. So when we're not getting enough fat in our diet, or if we have an overabundance of refined fats that the brain doesn't quite know how to work or use very well, or if we have a lot of alcohol in our diet, which tends to basically melt our fat in our brain, then we find we get those connections in the brain not working so well. We don't get the messages going, and that can affect our mood, it can affect our reaction, their ability to learn, and so on. So fats are really, really important. Important to look for things called polyunsaturated fats, things like avocado, wild salmon and fishes, nuts and seeds, using extra olive virgin oils for things like your salad dressings and so on. If you're looking for oils to use for cooking, things like avocado or hemp seed oil or some of those higher smoke point oils are very good. Grass-fed butter is a wonderful one too. So all those things really, really important to get that into your body. Love those. So if we're getting lots of good fats, proteins, carbohydrates from vegetables, and from good sources of protein, and so on, we're also going to probably get a good balance of vitamins and minerals. So vitamins and minerals, I like to call them the behind the scenes support for the rest of our proteins and fats. Vitamins and minerals in our body do a lot of support functions. So they're involved in a lot of chemical reactions to keep our body going and doing its energy reactions that it needs, but especially in the brain. It's often used for a lot of functions with neurotransmitters in our brain. They act as cofactors and they keep things going. They clean things up. They help recycle nutrients, things like that. So vitamin minerals of all kinds are very, very important. When we're under stress, our vitamins and our minerals are very much utilized to a large extent, especially the B vitamins. The B vitamins, I like to call them the brain vitamins. They're really our energy vitamins, and they can help with our mood so much. Vitamin D, from getting our safe sun exposure of 10 to 15 minutes a day, very important, or you can take a vitamin D supplement too. That's very important, especially this time of year. If any of you have bouts of seasonal SAD or depression, vitamin D supplementation can really work. So the best sources of vitamins and minerals that the body knows how to use can be fresh fruits and vegetables. I also like to include sea vegetables in that. So things like spirulina or cholera or nori, or all those types of things. Those are really, really good sources of nutrients as well. And it's good to get a variety. So try to eat all of the colors of the rainbow, change it up a little bit, you know, get all those different nutrients in there. Really important. Good. And then daily habits. So if we're eating better, we're going to be feeling better. But we also have to find ways to manage our stress, right? Any of those stress calming activities that put us back into rest and digest mode are really important. Developing a really good sleep routine. Sleep is when the body does its repair work, when it integrates, when it builds new muscles and makes new brain connections. So getting your sleep routine will really, really help as well. Getting nutrients that will help your sleep is really important too. Magnesium is one of the ones that I really like people to take in the evenings if they can, to help with their sleep. Magnesium is one that relaxes the body, and you can find it maybe like in a couple little squares of nice dark chocolate would be lovely at nighttime. You can get some in bananas. That's a great way to get it as well. And some people will do a magnesium supplement as well. Having a handful of pumpkin seeds would be great too. All ways that you can get some magnesium in your diet at bedtime. Movement. So we want to burn off some of the excess energy and stress hormones that we have accumulating during the day. So trying to find some movement in ways that you enjoy. We know not everyone out there is an athlete or is really likes to go to the gym or anything like that, but just simply, even if you can do the stairs more than an elevator, or you to find some sun or some fresh air and get out around the block, something that you can enjoy. Staying social. Social connection is really an important determinant of your long-term health and support as well. Of course, accessing resources like on mental health, like programs that CMHA has, of course, would be really good. But some other things in terms of your food that will help you is really taking time to sit down to eat, right? Being mindful about it. So when we sit, our body goes into rest, digest. Take a few deep breaths before you start to eat. That will calm your response to stress, and your body will start those digestive enzymes. Enjoy your meal with some good company too, right? The social aspect of eating is really, really important too. If you can at all, make water your drink of choice. Try to limit the caffeines and the sugary beverages. Choose things like oranges and apples versus the juice versions of those if you can. And you can find lots of ways to spice up your water these days too. If you like herbal teas, those are great substitutes and will help with your water consumption. You can make different infusions. I like, especially in the summertime, putting lemon or cucumber or things like that in my water, give a little bit different flavor. Of course, alcohol in moderation for enjoyment purposes is really okay, but it has to be in moderation, right? We have to have balance for those things. Try cooking, you know, meal planning or those kits, or even we do have some really good local healthy meal services in town as well. So that might be an option to try to get some more healthy meals and healthy food into your daily routine. Even if you're just starting and maybe you're not really comfortable in the kitchen yet, you know, it's a way to start to learn. It's a great way to include the family. Kids love to learn how to cook. They feel very much more involved if they are eating something that they prepared themselves. They're very proud of that. So those are some ways that you can get some better nutrition in to help with your mood. And eat a variety and eat regularly. We don't eat enough sometimes. We forget and we skip meals, but eating regularly really keeps our blood sugar balanced, keeps our stress response low, feeds our food, that gut. We make sure we get all the nutrients we need to keep our mood balanced. I've added supplements smartly in there too. I think supplements should be just that, a supplement, right? So if we're getting good nutrition, we're eating a good healthy food, maybe a supplement is just something we add to as a little bit of an insurance policy sometimes, like vitamin D throughout the year. Or if you know from your own biochemistry and your own genetics or something that maybe you are lacking something, that you can supplement smartly and get some good advice on choosing the right supplement if needed. And there's lots out there for your mental health. Is there a question,
Lesley?
Denise?
Yeah, Diane is asking, what are some types of sea vegetables?
Yes. So some of the sea vegetables, spirulina is one of my favorite one. It's like a green, kind of, you find it in green powder. And that can be often added to like a smoothie. Another one is chlorella, chlorophyll's another one. And they're actually vegetables that you find, plants that you find in aquamarine environments. So even if you're like a sushi fan, a lot of them will be wrapped in nori sheets. Nori is another really good vegetable that has a lot of minerals and vitamins in it. That would be great too. You may often find too that you find smoothie blends of different types of those sea vegetables that have been combined that you can add to a smoothie too. Yeah, kind of thing. So she can always reach out. I can always give her a few more too, but those are some of those kinds of things. If you like dulse, definitely in the Maritimes, we know we love dulse. That's got some really good nutrients in it as well. So that would be another example. Good. And that kind of brings me to actually fermented foods. So fermented foods are very, very good for that gut microbiome because they introduce good beneficial bacteria to our stomachs. So pickles that have been fermented in, not in sugar, but in vinegar, kimchi or sauerkraut, different types of yogurts or kefirs, things like that. Good to have some of those into our diet as well, because that will help keep our gut microbiome and that community in our gut system nicely balanced as well. Good. And I think that's all that I have for you there, Denise. Is there any other questions that has anyone brought up, or comments, or anything that I can help?
No, there's no other questions at this time. Does anybody have anything else they want to ask before we shut her down? Lesley, this has been some amazing information.
Good. Well, I'm glad it was. I hope it's helpful. And I know that we have some future sessions coming up that we're going to dive in a little deeper about some of the nutrients and some of the amino acids to help specific health and mood concerns, and different ways to help, you know, get your family feeding and eating a little better and things like that too. So, but in the meantime, anyone is welcome to reach out to you, and you can put them in contact with me, or they can find me on Facebook. I'd be more than happy. If they're in the Moncton area, they could stop in and see me at Sequoia, whatever they like. And I've got lots of helpful tips for them.
Perfect. All right. So does anyone have any questions before we close off this session for this month? I think we're all good.
Good. Okay. Actually, I see a couple in the Q&A here.
Oh, I was looking at chat. Sorry.
I was too. I thought I'll just click it. So Angela is asking if there are any dairy-free options other than margarine. Yes, there are. So dairy-free options other than margarine. Butter is an option, but you can get something. A lot of people are sensitive to butter, might be either because they're sensitive to the lactose sugar, but like myself, they might be sensitive to some of the proteins that are in butter. I often use ghee, which is something called clarified butter instead. So that's one option. And basically it is butter that is used often in Indian cooking and Asian and Eastern cooking, and then have taken the proteins out of it. So it's a little bit more, it's got the consistency of like a melted butter, but that's a really good option. Other things that I like to use too, instead of butter, sometimes I will use a coconut butter. It's a little bit thicker and a little different consistency than just a coconut oil. It might be called coconut manna. So that's often a really good one as well. So that's an option. Yeah. And then of course, if you're looking for options for cheeses and things like that, there's some really good dairy-free and plant-based cheeses and things on the market too. Just takes a little bit of research to find out what you like, whether it be cashew based or based with other products too. So they've come a long way in some of those plant-based options. Definitely.
Perfect. She said, thank you.
Perfect. Diane, I think we answered her question about the sea vegetables. Oh, she's also asking about how can I get more probiotics besides yogurt? So yogurt is an interesting one. If you're making your own yogurt at home through a yogurt maker, you will get a good variety of probiotics. Now, a lot of the yogurts that you will find in the grocery stores and so on, because of Health Canada regulations, they have to be pasteurized. However, part of the pasteurization process is that a lot of the enzymes and the probiotics will get killed off. So what they do is they then add back probiotics in there. So probiotics in yogurts, they're still very good. The other way that you can have a kefir, which is kind of like an oatmeal type of a milk that people will use, and sometimes just a tablespoon or so on in a smoothie, and that will give you some probiotics. There are kefirs now made out of coconut as well, which is really a good source of probiotics. You can also get them with the things like fermented pickles or kimchi. A little bit of kombucha is a nice treat, especially if you're a pop lover and you're trying to get a pop. Kombucha is like a fermented tea, and it's got lots of nice fizz. It's kind of a nice treat. A lot of people that have given up wine have really gone to kombucha too, and they really enjoy it. You can get it in lots of different flavors. So that's another option. Sauerkraut is another one as well. Yeah, so I hope that's some. I can certainly give her more if she needs to. We can reach out, but those are some of the ones that come from the top of my mind at the moment.
Now, somebody anonymously asked, can you expand on magnesium and the best options at night, liquid or capsules?
Okay, so magnesium can be confusing because it does come in a lot of forms if you're looking at it from a supplement perspective, and some of them will serve different purposes. So magnesium on its own isn't absorbed properly in the body. Magnesium as a chemical needs to be attached to something to be stable. So it's often attached to some sort of a salt. And it's that salt that can determine how it gets used by the body. So magnesium, especially at nighttime, I like to use either magnesium threonate or magnesium citrate is good for some people, or one called bisglycinate. So magnesium bisglycinate, it is a magnesium that's attached to a glycine molecule, which is a type of an amino acid. And an amino acid that usually has a hard time getting absorbed by the body because it competes with other amino acids in our protein. So sometimes we don't get enough. But if you take that at night, the magnesium will help with the relaxation and calming effect for the body and helping to relax. But the glycine will go to your muscles and it helps your muscles relax. So I find myself when I take magnesium glycinate, usually within a few minutes, I actually can feel the knots in my shoulders sort of melt. And it's this lovely, blissful feeling, go to sleep. Having an Epsom salt bath at bedtime, you'll also get some of the magnesium absorbed through your skin. So that can be very relaxing as well. In terms of liquids or capsules, that really depends on, first of all, what are you more likely to take and remember to take? Some people are very good at doing liquids, others aren't, and they much rather do a capsule. Liquids in general are easier for people to absorb. So, but it is really a personal preference. So I would suggest just talking to somebody in your supplement store that can kind of explain and ask a few good questions about what is the best for you. There are other types of magnesium that don't really have the same effect for sleep, but can be taken during the day. Magnesium citrate is one that's often taken during the day, can help with calming and anxiety during the day, but it doesn't give you that sleepiness necessary. Or it can help with moving the bowels around a little bit as well, too. So it's a good idea for constipation. So I hope that helps some of the magnesium. It can be a confusing one because there's a lot of them on the market. But happy to answer any other questions that come up. They can certainly reach out.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to be it. That seems to have wrapped it up.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Lots of thank yous. So everybody, I think, felt like I did that this was very, very useful information, very informative. And we can take a lot of this to heart. I think, we can make some positive changes. I've really been on a path of self-discovery for the past couple of years and doing a lot of stuff mentally and everything else. But now I'm really seeing the nutritional side and how it works so well with the mental health aspect and everything else that, I think I'm going to have to make some change. I might even be calling you to sit down for a session, Lesley.
There you go. Happy to do it. Absolutely. But I agree, Denise, when we're really talking about our mood and our mental wellness, it's a multifaceted thing, right? We can't just address the nutrition and the exercise. We have to talk about all the different types, whether it be the services that you guys offer at mental health or, but I hope that this at least is something that people can maybe implement 1 or 2 things at a time into their routine, and they can see that it will make a difference and going from there. And it also is nice that, sometimes when you can do something yourself, it gives you that sense of control and that sense of empowerment that, I can do something about the way I'm feeling. It's not going to control me, that I can have an input. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
I like Chantal's comment. She put loved it. Thanks, right in time for New Year's resolutions.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Well, I do. And I wish everyone a happy New Year's. I know I have friends of mine, and in the past few years, I've usually picked a word for my year of what I want it to be. I don't really do resolutions, but I kind of do a guiding word. But this year I decided to do a guiding phrase. So my phrase is going to be gentle on myself. So I have some exciting things and I'm busy. So I wish everybody a gentle New Year's in that respect.
That's beautiful. That's perfect.
And be gentle on yourselves with your nutrition too, right? Like I said, 80-20, small steps, still enjoy those treats, but it's all about a balance.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, for anybody who's interested, Lesley will be back again next month on January 26th with a presentation called The Brain Basics. So hopefully that'll give us some more insight and we can understand more and how nutrition plays that role and that part and everything else. And things just start to come together more for us.
Exactly. So. Yeah, we'll go into a little bit more about things that I know, in particular things like for anxiety or depression or for, learning and a little bit more about, how to help family and incorporate healthy meals easier into your routine and things like that next time.
Sounds amazing.
So many topics we could do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for attending. Hopefully we'll see you in a month from now. Lesley, I can't thank you enough, and I look forward to our next session together. And everybody, Happy New Year's. We'll talk to you next year.
Thank you, Denise.
All right. Bye for now.